Call our regular board meeting to order. The Broadview Westchester Joint Water Agency. We're located in the Village of Broadview Chambers, 2350 South 25th Avenue. Celeste, can we get a roll call, please?
Mayor Thompson.
Yes.
Mayor Stecker.
Present.
Ms. Senior.
Here.
Ms. Jones.
Here.
Ms. Caraco.
Here.
Am I calling Mr. Rebo?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Did you guys approve him to be on the what agency board?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so you'll just be guest. Okay. We're good.
And please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We don't have any public comments. No one is in the audience. So,
Mr. Jones. would like to
oh,
speak.
Director Ames? Oh, we have one public comment. Okay. Yes, because we straight live.
Good evening, Mr. Jurisic. Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Ames. I am the Public Works Director here in the Village of Broadview. And we had a recent water main break on the agency's water main line that was somewhat problematic, at least on the Broadview side. In the 14, 15 years that I've been in this position, I've also spent 12 years as an executive committee member for the water agency. Broadview and Westchester has always maintained their autonomy and functioning as separate municipalities. The agency, once again, is a separate taxing district from both municipalities. So all three taxing bodies have maintained a separation, except in the case of mutual aid. And while I know that there was intent to provide mutual aid the night of the agency water main break, I think that there were some bounds that were crossed. And for
Mr.
me,
Ames, is this your public comment? If
It
it's
is.
a personnel matter that
No.
happened in the field, then that's a discussion that you need to have with my office.
well, this is a public comment, Mayor. This is
Okay, well, you
exactly
have,
what
you
this
have
is.
2 minutes.
That's fine. Once again, the problem was the overstepping of the bounds with the Westchester employees as it relates to Broadview's functioning and assisting Superintendent Barber with this critical break that affected both towns and the hospitals. So my comment, Mayor, is that hopefully in the future, we can recognize our respective boundaries and most certainly act with information that's correct and factual in providing mutual aid or assistance. That is my comment for this evening. Thank you all for entertaining it. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move forward, I would like to make a motion to allow Mayor Stecker to participate electronic. He is working today, so I need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Next on the agenda is the presentation of the minutes. I don't have any questions as it relates to the minutes. Do you, Trustee?
I have none.
Trustee
No
Senior?
questions.
Trustee,
None.
Ms. Jones. Mayor Staker, do you have any questions as it relates to the minutes from June 23rd?
I do not.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 The minutes for June 23rd will be presented at next board meeting.
So what meetings, because it was some minutes in our packet.
That's for the closed meeting minutes.
So why are these minutes on our agenda, and why wasn't that disclosed to us that we don't have those ready for this meeting?
They were not prepared, but for this board.
And who's supposed to prepare them? Is it the secretary or you?
my understanding, there was supposed to be a secretary, but she wasn't here at the board meeting.
She don't have to be here because we stream live. So Celeste, can you tell us why we don't have minutes?
Usually when I'm not here, the minutes are prepared by your office.
Yeah, I wasn't at the last meeting either.
I'm sorry,
was on
I
vacation.
didn't realize it was missed. I've never prepared them
Okay,
when I
so
wasn't
for a
here.
point of clarity, we have a recording secretary, and we don't have minutes prepared for this meeting, and we stream live, and the video is available for those that's not here to watch the meeting so that we have minutes. So moving forward, and Mayor Stecker, you can chime in on this moving forward, I need a clear directive of who's responsible for the minutes.
I fully take that responsibility. It was a change in procedure than we've ever had before. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I apologize.
Okay, no worries. We just need to know
Sure.
who we need to hold
Absolutely.
accountable.
Yeah. No problem.
Okay, so,
The minutes that we have are for February and March that were included with our packet.
Those are executive meeting minutes.
no, that's for the closed session, right?
Okay,
And that's on the agenda for us to, let me see.
but yeah, there's nothing for the
No.
June. Okay.
Okay, so we need to rescind the motion for the minutes from June 23rd, 2022. Can I get a second to rescind those?
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And so those minutes will be available to us for the August meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then those minutes that were included in our packet, that's on the agenda for us to approve for the closed session. So when we get to that line item, we can address that. Okay, the monthly financial report for July 2022. Okay, so we got it.
You should have all received the financial reports from Kelly. Just a little notes. Currently, in the Illinois funds, capital project funds that we have $4,160,913 in the checking account, the Fifth Third checking account. We currently, this is at the end of June, we have $1,537,854 for a combined total cash of $5,698,798. Currently, in the first 2 months, we're running a loss of $98,795, but like I said, that's only for the first 2 months. Hopefully that will get better as time goes on. And with the main break we had, we're going to be looking at the budget because obviously there's unexpected expenses. We will be keeping an eye on the budget to try to make sure to keep everything under budget. And that would be all then.
Okay,
Any questions?
Mayor Stecker, you have any questions for the financial report?
I do not.
Okay, the only statement that I would like to make as it relates to, we are aware of the expense that we just occurred as it relates to the water main break. So for me, I would like to see, if we need to look at the budget on how we need to maybe amend it, looking at our expenses and then the loss that we have.
Reallocate if we have to.
Yeah.
Yes, as the year goes to go throughout the fiscal year, if we have to reallocate funds that maybe we won't be using to help subsidize the
Okay.
over expenditures, we will
As
bring
long
that
as
to
we're
your
keeping
attention.
an eye on that.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Trustee Caraco?
I have nothing else.
Trustee Senior? No questions. Ms. Jones? No. Okay, thank you. Do we need to approve the, yeah, can I get a motion to approve the financial report for July 2022?
So moved. Second.
It's moved by Ms. Jones, second by Trustee Senior. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, for old business, status report on expansion of the agency water reservoir at 10th Avenue Pump Station site and 1.1 million gallon reservoir project financing from water reservoir bonds and refunding of the IEPA loan. Hey, Jim.
You guys all get a copy of the memo?
Yep.
Okay. You may need it to look at it? Okay. Good evening. At the direction of the board at the last meeting, we, along with Ciorba Group, met with representatives of Westchester's Water Department and went and did an assessment of their Crestwood Avenue pump station and what type of improvements that would be necessary there that would help Westchester, but also be a benefit to the agency as well, and the big items that came back is their SCADA system. Basically needs replacement. It's old and not functioning well, and upgrading it and bringing it into the same system as we have for the agency would make communications and information exchange much better, have a good idea of what's going on, because there's many times we don't know what's going on in the Westchester system, so having all that information shared and together would be beneficial. One of the other things that they noticed was that they do not have a meter for their incoming water into Crestwood, so it's hard for them to balance flows and for the agency to know if there's any losses in that transmission main or anything of that nature. So that was the other major item of improvement. The memo says, and there's a preliminary cost between the two of them. It's like $96,000 for the SCADA and about $500,000 for the metering. So my understanding is the direction is that if the board so directs, that we would include that in with the reservoir project, and also begin looking at expanding the size of the water main, of the storage tank. I think we've been looking towards that as well, and this event that happened over the 4th of July weekend, I think heightened that maybe a little bit more storage would be a good thing. We were going to have 1 million, but if we can expand it to 1.5 million. There's 2 ways to increase it. One is to increase its footprint, which is more expensive than going taller. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if the taller isn't going to be a problematic in the neighborhood, or.
For us in Broadview, the height might be in question. So I would like to see some drawings on what that would look like for the community, and host a community town hall so
But
people
also-
can kind of see it and give us some input on
And we
that.
can give you a cost comparison because.
Yep.
I mean, if you go taller, you're only digging the same amount of area.
Right.
It's just, so instead of having to do all that other excavation.
But we want to see the renderings to see
Sure.
what it would potentially look like.
Yes, and, it would take up more of the park. The
Okay.
areas would be less left for park. to
Okay.
expand it. Okay, we will work on that.
Okay.
And try to get it for the next meeting, maybe the meeting after that. but
Okay, that's fine. I have some questions about the reservoir for Westchester.
Yes.
So the reservoir, to do the expansion, do the agency own that reservoir, or is it the Village of Westchester?
Village of Westchester owns those reservoirs. over at
So I
Crestwood.
think that would be a conversation that would need to take place, because it's not technically a agency issue.
Correct.
And so, I mean, if we can provide some input or some insight on helping them, secure funding for that, I think the agency should be in position
Yeah,
to do that.
I don't think there's an issue of the storage that they need. It's more knowing.
The work.
The communication. It's the SCADA system, which I think is a direct tie to the agency. I think we could justify that as a connection there, if that's the way the board wants to go, but that and the metering.
We're making sure like what comes out comes in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So you can have a balance, so you can know what's going on, so you have a better idea, so you can tell if there's something going on that.
So
you
I
have a good
guess for
idea.
me, the question to Westchester, how do you guys look at your water loss?
Well, and that's what I think it kind of spelled out in there, is that we can only account for what we can track, and that there's nothing that's telling us how much, if there is any water loss in between the 10th Avenue station and the Crestwood, is from what I gathered from this.
No, that's not my question. My question is, how do Westchester detect a water loss? Because by state statute, the IEPA requires us to say what our water loss is
So
annually.
they have meters on the outgoing from their pump station, and then they compare that to their, what any other community does, compares to what they sold. So they can do it within their system, they can do the balance. It's just not knowing if there's any losses between Westchester and the agency in Westchester. So they do an internal system balance, but they don't have that factor, which, based on there probably isn't a lot of loss going through that transmission, but if there is something that ever goes on it, they'll be
But
able to
what
tell
would
us.
trigger something if it was a large amount of water that was coming from their tower to the agency? Wouldn't that trigger something to say that our water bill is higher, or something got to trigger something to show where the loss is, not the minimum or the maximum. Something got to trigger whether they have it in place. I'm just trying to articulate, and then maybe I won't be able to do it in this meeting, but just kind of put some thought process behind it, because I do recognize that we're all government agencies, and we got to be responsible for our own labor and work as it relates to the municipality, and it wouldn't be fair to the agency to say we're gonna pick up a $500,000 cost on something that's really expense that the Village of Westchester should potentially consider putting it in a budget, or figure out where they're gonna get the funding from to fix it. So it's a conversation that we definitely gotta have, and, you know, what's practical and best for both municipalities at this point, because one thing I do know, if something should, like this water main break, I learned this when this water main broke, Westchester couldn't help us.
No.
And so what would be the benefit for me as the mayor to say, we should invest in this and you can't help us?
I mean, they could help, but your system would have had to got pretty low for their system to feed.
No,
you,
they,
yes.
even when we got into a critical situation, I was told that we couldn't, that could not happen because they feed to the village of Hillside. So I don't know, so
Okay.
I'm just telling you what was
Okay.
told to me
Okay.
as it relates to the tower when we got into a critical situation
Mm-hmm.
with this water main break. So if it can't, you know, if I can't help Westchester, I wouldn't expect us to get something fixed. If we can help each other, then yeah, we should kind of figure out what that would look like on an intergovernment conversation. But if we fixing something that can't benefit my residents, then I'm a strong no.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we need to sit down with staff and try to figure out the, you know, the what, and then also with
we
that
know what the what
transmission
is.
line, and try to figure out exactly how much, you know, of our internal controls are showing for a loss, and then how much we're still not accounting for that may be happening in the transmission between 10th Avenue and Crestwood. And then also, like we discussed with the other day, was I know Hillside was going to be opening up stuff to us, but it was limited as to we weren't even going to be in a position then to be able to help you guys, and we got to figure that out. So I think we have to have a couple conversations. You know, hopefully we could have those in the next couple weeks.
Okay, I'm fine with that, Mayor. Like I said, I'm not in opposition to it, but if it's something that we're fixing and it's the Broadview Westchester Water Agency, and my residents can't benefit from it, then I'm a strong no. Or if it was the reverse and Westchester couldn't benefit on the use of Broadview, I would be a strong no on that too, because this is not Broadview Hillside Westchester, this is Broadview Westchester, and I'm looking out for the best interests of both municipalities. Now, how water feed in and get out, I don't, that's beyond my scope of what my understanding would allow. But at the same time, I do understand that we have to be practical in our expenses and what that look like as a standalone agency before we start commingling dollars and taking responsibilities that's truly not ours. So I would encourage Westchester to do some, you know, digging in more like what you're saying. We know what the what is, we just need to figure out the how and the why and how we, you know, get to where we need to be. But I think it's something most certainly we should keep on the table to, you know, keep it, you know, as a conversation piece. And I know that we're looking at some funding coming from the federal government as it relates to water infrastructure. So, you know, keeping that dialogue open up with Wesley and entertaining, and I think we need to get a grant writer for the agency to entertain some of these infrastructure. Because again, I cannot allow the agency to use my grant writer for free to do the work. So it is funding that's available, and I know that Todd, who's our grant writer here, is doing some stuff for the Westchester agency so that we don't miss an opportunity. But moving forward, I cannot allow that to continue to happen. So we got to have that conversation and put some things in place. And I think you guys got a good story to tell, that this got to happen, because you need to know, and you got to protect the safety of the drinking water.
Yeah, I mean, because we should. I mean, in theory, we're buying it at we're buying so many gallons, and then we should be selling back so many gallons, and we shouldn't be, you know, it shouldn't be a loser. We should be, you know, it's what comes in should go out. So we gotta figure this out. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely look forward to some conversations in the next couple weeks.
Okay.
Thank you,
Available.
Jim, for putting that together for us, because we asked you to.
Okay.
Jerusalem?
Just a quick comment, when we look at this component of the project, the SCADA system, we do have to look, the IGA says that, Westchester is responsible for their own unit system, which is a definition for their water system. Broadview is responsible for its unit system, their water system. This in-between, right, area, pipe, SCADA system, who's gonna own it, who's gonna maintain it, who's gonna operate it? If it's truly an agency ownership, then this helps primarily the agency, and it has an ancillary effect, on Westchester, that's good. That can be paid for with, agency money. If it's truly just a Westchester improvement, to their water system, then, we gotta look at it the lens that Westchester should be, making that type of improvement. And if there's some mutual common ground we can get to where this 96,000 can be cost shared, and the engineer can justify it, we gotta look at it through that lens too.
And I think that's the lens we want to look at, it, what we can participate as a cost share.
Correct.
Because we know the Village of West, it's the reservoir, they gotta proactively seek the funding, but as whatever happens for cost sharing, I'm on board for helping out.
Okay.
I mean, that would be my position.
I'm available when we want to set up a meeting, set time,
Okay.
start the discussions.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the, you got something else, Mayor?
No, I'm good, thank
Oh,
you.
okay. Next on the agenda is status report on purchase of 1014 and 1020 West Roosevelt Road properties, Broadview, Illinois, by Housing Forward.
Status quo, no new update.
Okay, thank you. Next, new business, consideration and approval of the finance report as of July 2022 and check detail report for the period of June 24th, 2022 to July 28th, 2022, in the amount of $1,214,254.23. The agency check numbers are 16537 through 16568. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Sticker, do you have any questions?
None.
Trustee Caraco?
No.
Trustee Senior?
No.
Ms. Jones?
None.
So, I don't have a question, but I do for the record. As we was reviewing the bills, I did ask to review Gino Plumbing invoice, because we didn't have the details, and when we saw the details, I actually sent that information over to the mayor as well, so that he can review it, and we didn't have any comments or, questions as it relates to the billing for the services that was provided. Is that fair, Mayor Stecker?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, because, just seeing the number, I had the questions, but once I got to see the invoice and how it was broken down, all my questions were answered, so I appreciate that. And just, in moving forward, when we start, especially invoices that big, it just would be helpful to just kind of see a little bit of the scope, so, but that immediately answered all my questions, so thank you for getting that.
Oh, you're welcome, it's my pleasure. Celeste, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Absolutely. Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Mayor Stecker?
Yes.
Ms. Senior?
Yes.
Ms. Caraco?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Okay, next on the agenda is consideration and approval of amendment to contractor lists for on-call, routine, and emergency water system repair services to add additional contractors per recommendation of the agency engineer. Approval of independent contractor agreements to be entered into with additional contractors for on-call, routine, and emergency water system repair services will be presented at the August 25th, 2022 agency board meeting. So I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
And, Mayor Sticker, you have any questions or comments?
No, you know what, we had the one conversation just about adding, John Neary Construction. They were the ones that did, performed the repair on the 10th Avenue. I did have staff reach out to him to see if he would be interested, because we do know that he's capable of doing the 24-inch line. But they had stated that, that they have no problem with being called out on an emergency basis. However, they did not feel it was prudent for them to be a part of the rotation, because they have a a large commitment to the DuPage Water Committee. And they didn't want to, I guess, over-promise, underproduce, but they did say that on an emergency basis that they would be happy to take a call.
Okay, well, actually, this is for emergency water repair, so what would happen, regardless of where they are in the rotation, we call them, if they're available, they come out, if they not, they don't, and we just go through the list. So that's
They
good.
just didn't want to get, a bad rep if they were unavailable because of prior commitments. So I think as long as we know that,
Yeah.
Going in, having more names on the list is better than trying to scramble, the day of.
I agree wholeheartedly. So, we got the list, the contractor list, so we would want to add the John Neary Construction Company to it and change the rotation of the call. So, for transmission repair list, John Neary Construction would be the first point of call. And we understand that, we don't know what they're doing, but the second would be Unique Plumbing, and the third would be Sir Nibley Company. And then on the miscellaneous routine repair list, Geno Heating and Plumbing would be the first call. Morrow Sewer and Water would be the second. Third would be Unique Plumbing, and fourth would be Sir Nibley Company. This list could grow as we get recommendation either from the engineer or the superintendent to add to our list. But what we found out when we had this particular water main break that took place, it was during the holiday weekend. And we made several calls to two of the entities, and they were out of town, so they might run small shops or, just family stuff during the holiday weekend. And most certainly, we are not in a position to say, if you got to come to work, you got to come to work, because we got an emergency. And we was in an emergency situation where, based off them getting on the list, we expected them to show up for us, and they couldn't. And thank God that John Neary Construction Company was doing some work in the village of Westchester, was able to help us out. Because if they wasn't there, it would have got real critical for us. So most certainly we want to, add them to the list, but we do understand that this can happen to anybody on the list when things come up. We just need to be real upfront with the people that we have relationships with, what our expectations are. And, sometimes unless you out the country or out the state, but emergency is just what it is. We can't control it. We don't know when it's going to happen. So, is it a total amount in this contract? I didn't see the total amount, if it was.
This is just updating or giving me direction to prepare the agreement to
Okay.
add the contractor to the list. And I'll put all the paperwork together the next few weeks and have it ready to vote on. If you have a consensus tonight to direct me to do that, I'll make sure it's on the next agenda, ready to go.
Yes, we do want it on the next agenda. And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, yeah, so can you put it on the next agenda for us?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Consideration and approval resolution number 22-05, resolution approving the content in or release certain closed minutes of regular and special meetings of the Board of Directors and Executive Committee of the Broadview Westchester Joint Water Agency. This is the half-year review,
Yes, ma'am.
so I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Sticky, you have any questions or comments regarding
I
this?
do not.
Trustee Caraco?
I do. Just one note is the location needs to be updated on the minutes. I think it still had on there, if I saw correctly, that it was that they took place at the Village of Westchester.
March
Oh, the
24th.
community room.
Which one? I'm sorry, for both.
What's the meeting date, trustee?
I'm sorry, February 24th, 2022. It has the Westchester Village Hall in the community room. I'll update those. And then also, the March 24th has the same, or needs the same update.
I'll make the changes for the record.
Any other questions or comments?
No, that was it.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
Ms. Jones?
No.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so with those two corrections, that one carries. Number 4, discussion only. So we only discussing this, the easement agreement for the water main and water systems improvement, CTA, Concordia Cemetery, and the Broadview Westchester Joint Water Agency. So you're drafting that now. So Cook County Plan in the row, what do row stand for?
Right away.
Okay, the right-of-way survey site map regarding water agency main line in the Val and I-290 row with river crossings dated September 20th, 1956. So what we need to do, Mike?
Really, what we'll do is, hopefully, the document will be ready. I'm dealing with the CTA and the Concordia Cemetery. We have a vault and a valve over near the cemetery, and on the cemetery, it's a question of whether it's on cemetery property or CTA property. There's a fence that goes around this area over where, the billboards were taken down. The fence got welded shut by a contractor, leaving us with not the ability to service our vault and the valve. CTA and Concordia both said if you need access to it, just cut the fence, because the contractor should not have welded it shut. And CTA legal is trying to, legal department's trying to track down a legal description for the property and confirm ownership. It's one of those kind of, no bed, pun intended, dead properties. It's right next to the cemetery. I'm sorry. But the reality is, nobody can figure out title. CTA thinks they own it, they've acted like they've owned it. The Concordia Cemetery says that we, that they have it, but nobody can put their finger on it. So we're taking the position based on this old map that I think Jim, you found it, right? This old plat from the 1950s, that we've been on that land forever, so we're taking this attitude that we're in a right-of-way, we've been there forever, we have a right to be there through right-of-way easement, through prescriptive easement. Now, I just want a simple access agreement between the three parties to clear, going forward, that the agency has its infrastructure there. We're gonna attach that old plat, so I'm drafting that.
Okay.
CTA agreed to do all the background legal research and get us a legal description, so collaboratively, we're all taking a piece of the pie and getting this together. Hopefully, it'll all be ready for you in August, and it'll clear this little snafu up, but it wasn't something we made or did. It was just sort of, we were caught off guard when a third-party contractor for CTA basically shut the door on our access, and they weren't even really authorized. The CTA said they just did it, to keep, people, the public from getting into this area. But we do have a self-help remedy. There's a hole in the fence, and then we have, they're not gonna put it in writing, but we have the right to cut the fence and go access our infrastructure if need be.
Well, in an emergency situation, that's what I would expect to
That's
happen.
exactly what's gonna happen. And the cemetery has been very cooperative.
Okay.
Just said, do what you need to do. We want you to continue to have access that we know you've always historically had. So hopefully Jim and I and Wes will button this up for the next meeting. If not the next meeting, it'll be the next one. We're actively working on it. I just need to get some information back from the CTA and run the agreement through their legal eyes and get their approval. And if it does, as soon as that's ready, I'll bring it forward. Again, I just wanted to tee it up now to get it on your radar.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Mayor Sticker, you have any questions,
No.
comments?
Nope.
Okay, I do want to say, I like us cleaning up stuff, putting things in place for the next roles of leaders that's going to eventually take over the agency. So thank you, Mike, for, collaborating with the three entities and making it easy for us and whoever, come in these roles, making it easy for them, because it has not been easy for me or Mayor Stecker as we go through this. So I appreciate that due diligence in making it right. Trustee Caraco, you have any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
Ms. Jones?
No.
All right, so we anticipate sometimes early fall, this should be on the radar?
Hopefully in the next 60 days.
Okay.
I can have it all buttoned up for everybody.
Okay, good deal, thank you. Superintendent report.
Hello, board. I submitted my superintendent's report electronically. Have any questions?
Mayor Stecker, do you have any questions for the superintendent regarding his report or anything in general?
I'm trying to think, not, I was looking at, no, nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you. So I don't have any questions for you, but I do want to address some concerns that came up in public comment from Director Ames as it relates to how we provide mutual aid. And so as we work with two different municipalities, Superintendent Barber, we have to be mindful of what the onus is for the municipality. And I know it's a thin line because sometimes we don't know, especially, like, this is my first time ever coming across an emergency like this that we had since I've been on this board. So it's been kind of just streamlining, but when we get into situations like this, we have to be mindful of who owns, we provide the mutual aid. And so if we ask in either Broadview to assist or Westchester to assist, we always have to have that point of contact of the responsible party for the municipality. So we need to be mindful on how we communicate that to those that's on the scene. Typically, I don't come out on water main breaks, but I talked to Mayor Stecker, and so he insisted that I come see this hole, because I just couldn't, imagine it, but I was okay with it. But we're dealing with like an emergency crisis, and emotions flare up. It's emotional, because, now it's almost like a panic zone, like what's happening, we checking the numbers. I know Mayor Stecker was diligent in, what his expectations were that day, which were all valid, but we in an emergency situation, and I try not to panic in emergency situations. This is just me. I try to just stay as calm as I possibly can because I need to make a decision that can impact somebody, whether it's good or bad, but I need to be able to own that, whatever decision that I make. So when we're talking about leaderships and different types of personality, you as the superintendent got to be able to articulate that. And sometimes you got to make a decision like right there on, like how we was right there at, hold on, stand, let me handle this, I got da-da-da-da. Or if you have leadership there, I'm requesting that you stay on site. You can't leave because it's in your town. And so you as a leader have to be able to make that decision. They don't tell you how to do your job. You tell them what's required to run this agency. This is in your town. Somebody that can make a decision need to stay here until we either complete the job or until I release somebody to, I think I got it under control. Because you can't make a decision for Broadview and you can't make a decision for Westchester. You can only make a decision what's best for the water agency. And at the time, you're dealing with a municipality that had to make a decision on safe and lifety issues. And only the village of Broadview could do that in Broadview. Westchester can't do that for Broadview and vice versa. So I just wanted to be real clear on the message that during public comment that came up that we are aware in what's taking place. Also, I got your report, but I also asked for a report for this water main break as it relates to what all, like an incident report.
Yeah.
And so, and I haven't seen that yet. And so for me, when we're dealing with critical infrastructure that's, that's costing us, it's not just about the money part, but it's about the life safety. We had a resident that was inconvenient. I don't know how long it was, but it was a couple of days. Mm-hmm. And, just trying to keep that person in the loop of every step of the way, not giving all the details, but just we knew we had some water sewer issues with that one particular home as it relates to coming back online. And I like to keep things documented for, because anything can come up and I need to be able to give a report back either to legal, to protect the agency, or to the village of Broadview to protect the liability risk. Because now we're talking about risk. And we have to, make sure that we're communicating effectively when it comes to things that's at risk. And when we're making accommodations for people, it's at risk. And it's a liability for the agency and for the municipality. So, as you go through this process, just always think safety first and the liability risk. And we have to communicate that, and I prefer to have it documented in a document so that I can communicate that with legal. So when things come up, we're not caught off guard, or we scrambling to get documents together when we know what happened. I just like to have everything together, so if something should happen, we're prepared to address it and we're not panicking.
Okay.
Because when we come across things, sometimes we panic, and especially in a crisis situation, and we just tend to do that as humans. It's not a dig on nobody, but it's just sometimes that's just how we made up of, we just don't know how to handle crises. But I try to handle a crisis as calm as I possibly can, you know, without getting attached to the emotion component, because everybody know their job. And when someone feel like somebody is challenging their authority or their job or their leadership, they take it personal. And it's not personal, it's just we're conducting business, but you're dealing with personalities from 2 different municipalities. So a rule of thumb, if you in Broadview, it should just be Broadview leadership. Not saying that you can't include the other leaders, and if you ask them, or vice versa, if you're in Westchester and you doing some troubleshooting, it's their leadership that you're communicating with. But as an agency, to reduce the risk that Mayor Stecker and I have to come up against, whether it's on the liability side, the public side, residential side, I would like to have that documented so that I'm prepared to address any concerns that may come up from the public. And I don't know if I'm speaking for Mayor Stecker, but I'm sure he would want the same documentation just to address the, you know, the feedback that we may get from the public. Whether it's good, bad, or indifference, we need to be prepared and not caught off guard.
Okay.
And so that's why I had asked for the report. Mayor Stecker, you wanted to say something?
No, I agree. It would be nice to see an incident report with something of this level.
Yeah.
And again, just so we understand, like, I mean, this is how we came across the whole thing. Like, well, what do you mean Westchester can't help Broadview? Or what do you mean, like, you know, like, that's not the time to find these things out. So let's take this as like a lesson learned, and let's figure out exactly what happened. And, you know, because everything, it was a dynamic situation, and, you know, what was an issue at 4 o'clock in the morning became a bigger issue at 7 o'clock in the morning. People start waking up, people start using water, and it was, you know, it was just an ongoing process. So it would be nice to just kind of see the incident broken down, just so, again, we can learn from it, and we can try to put safeguards in place so this happens again. We've got a living document that will help guide us on how to handle the future.
Yep, I agree. And then if you want to, you know, like schedule a meeting like with the mayors, we just have to post that we're having a meeting so that we don't become in violation of anything. But you want to have a meeting with the mayor and I and the leadership with both sides, Village, Westchester, and Broadview, to just talk about this specific issue to see how we could have done things different or give some troubleshooting on like the next course, like what happens the next time. Because I do believe that community partnerships is big for me, and they are my neighbors. And what's good for me is good for them. You know, you do for your neighbors as you would do for yourself. And so I've always lived by that. And they are my neighbors. We co-chair this agency together. There shouldn't be no contentious between the two. And sometimes we just need to talk it out to understand what that is. And I know you was put in a situation, and like I said, since I've been on the board, we haven't had nothing at this magnitude happen. Well, maybe one time, but I think that was isolated. So, but this was a little bit different because we're all learning together. So just kind of be, you know, aware of that on where place, location, and how you as a leader can troubleshoot, you know, best practices that's gonna make your job easier. Because when other personalities or emotions arise, it takes you out of your element because you're panicking on different levels. And you don't need to do that. You just need to stay focused and making sure you're doing what you need to do. But you have the power to tell them no or step aside or stay here. And if they fail to do that, then you report back to us and let us know this is why we need reports. You know, I've requested this didn't happen, and this is the impact. Because from my level of leadership, it's all about accountability. And that's everybody that's up under me is accountable. That's on my staff. Everybody. No one's exempt from accountability, not even me. So we just want to, you know, be accountable in our actions. But other than that, I think you handled it well by troubleshooting and, doing everything that you possibly could do to, find out where the disruption had taken place and, and working with the two municipalities to troubleshoot it, just to, help you through this process. So I thank Westchester and I thank Broadview for being on the scene to give you that guidance, but I think we can make it a little bit stronger. Just communicating, even if you guys just meet once a month, just to troubleshoot, like we got the water tower over that we just talking about that Jim just gave us. That's a discussion that I think you all can have a discussion, because now we're talking about how it impact communities. And we don't know who or is the backup. Like I learned that Hillside use you all for backup if something should happen for them. So this is when we talk about mutual aid. Fire and police have mutual aid. We in the water service should have mutual aid too, on who we can rely on in our partnerships. Is it the village of Maywood? Is it LaGrange Park? Is it Westchester? Is it Bellwood? We don't know, but if we start having these dialogues and maybe starting our own water conversation on what that look like, it can make us better and stronger. And then we know when funding opportunities come up, we know we can address those funding opportunities that can impact not just our own communities, but multiple communities, because we provide mutual aid, but we can't see it because it's underground. So I think it's time for us to start having that dialogue, because that situation on Tim said that it's time to talk about things on how we impact other communities. Because like I said, I didn't know that Hillside was a recipient of, if they got in trouble. But we, the partners, and you guys Westchester couldn't help us. And so those are things we need to know. Yes, Greg?
I've spoken with the Director of Public Works from North Riverside.
You can come up to the mic. So thank you, Superintendent Barber. I don't have nothing. Anybody else had any questions for the superintendent?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And I know it was discussed during the event that North Riverside was, actually, initially, it was believed Maywood was a provider of emergency water to the village of Broadview, but it turned out that they have a backflow valve that
Right.
didn't allow it. So Maywood's staff was out there, and it turned out that it didn't work out. Since that time, though, I've spoken to the Director of Public Works of North Riverside, who tests their valve with you, but apparently Broadview has not yet tested that valve. So there is an opportunity for you to reach out to staff as well, internally at Broadview as opposed to the agency. There is a path in for water from North Riverside in emergencies like we have in Hillside.
Well, thank you, Greg. I appreciate that. So that's why I said with the conversation, with the agency on how we connect between the engineers, the superintendent, and the public work directors, from my perspective, I think you guys could do that and just report back to the board on what that looks like, or, in your respective board meetings, just report back to the board of trustees on when you're doing your reports on what that would look like. So then that way, we're clear on, who we can rely on in a situation, if we can't rely on each other because of things that we just don't know. Like we found out Maywood couldn't open up their valve to us, but we can open it up to them. So those are things like our surrounding communities, we need to, I think all of us need to be more aware of just that type of situation. So I'm sure we're not the only one that could come across this. So I just think if you guys just talk about it, and you can call a meeting, Superintendent Barber, with the surrounding towns, with the public work directors and the village administrators, however that deal works. Just to have a dialogue and maybe have Jim, Jim is the engineer for most of the municipalities around here, right? I'm being real serious. So maybe, this could be something that Hancock can take the lead on as we talk about water infrastructure, because it's a conversation that have to be had. It's just we're not in silos no more. We can't function like they did 25 years ago. We have to be visionaries, and we have to leave something for those that come after us to put best practices in place. It's our job to do that. So I think, the powers that be with the water infrastructure, I think, Jim, will you take the lead, Jim, and kind of put that together? See, I made it easy for you. Yeah, sure. Yeah, but thank you, Greg. Thank you for that information.
So one of the items that the EPA sent a letter on about, and the risk and resilience, the assessment has been completed and submitted to EPA, but the follow-up next step is an emergency response plan. I think this dovetails perfectly into preparing that so that we can work together put that as part of that, as we work on that.
Nice.
Another thing, the agency has the concrete main, which most of it is concrete, is a specialty type of repair and needs special fittings. The agency has 2 sets of fittings in their yard, just in case. And we have a piece of, ductile iron pipe. It's about 10 feet long. Fortunately, the repair that we had needed out here was 12 feet.
Okay.
So what I would like is get some pricing and have the agency buy a full stick of 24-inch ductile iron pipe that's 18 feet long and have it stored in their yard so that if anything happens in the future, we're
makes
not
sense.
scrambling for, fortunately, they were able to find one through Hillside.
Yes.
But have that, we were ready, but unfortunately, it was only a 10-foot piece of pipe there. So that's one of the things I want to do and look at updating some of the couplings, some materials that we should have on hand.
Okay.
We were pretty prepared, it's just unfortunately the repair
Right.
was a little bit longer than we expected.
So I'm for having that checklist and having, a solution, a plan B, where we have our own materials
Yes.
in stock wherever it's stored at. I don't think Mayor Sticker would be in opposition to that.
We're talking about a stick of pipe, we're not talking.
Yeah,
huge amount.
so
The
so
other
if you
pieces
can
are a
get
little
us
more-
what that look like for the next board meeting, so
Sure.
that if we
Yes.
gotta approve that
Yes.
to get, to make the purchase away, I think we need to be prepared for emergencies.
Yes, okay,
So, and then coordinate with the departments
yes.
for North Riverside, however the
We'll
water
get everybody
connects.
together and I explained to everybody how the different systems are integrated and how they work and what can work and what can't work.
Yeah,
so
and
that
then,
everybody's
because
got a
in
clear
that way, we
picture.
can either troubleshoot, or the municipality can troubleshoot what we need to do, if we need to fix something.
Yes,
And then it also helps the water agency as it relates to the Broadview Westchester side on things that we can enhance. But
Yes.
we want to be good corporate partners to our neighbors.
Sure.
You love for yourself what you love for others.
yep. And, I was out there for about 10 hours during the
Okay.
break, so trying to help talk to different personnel, both agencies, both villages, to try to help them understand the system and, looking at the best way. And we were fortunate the hospitals were in a good shape. They were still able to get water so that we, so we were working well together. We just,
Okay, so the hospitals wasn't affected during this water main?
correct,
Okay, thank you for that point of clarity.
yes. They were safe.
And if you could put it together, just let the mayor and I know when it's gonna be. I'm sure those that's on the water agency may want to attend.
Sure.
I think I need to be there, just,
So you have, at least get 10,000.
okay.
You don't need to get the trench with us.
All right, I appreciate the updates. We don't have anything for closed session, do we, Mike?
I do not.
You know what, I do want to go in closed session for, no, well, it's not really a personnel, for the superintendent position. I want to extend the date, because I think it expired.
Date in open session, because it's.
Okay.
It's a public.
Okay, so we don't need to go to closed session, so I do want to extend the date for the close date for the superintendent position to be September 30th. Are you good with that, Mayor Stecker?
Yeah.
And so, we did get 3 applicants to apply for the position, but we want to put it out again to see if we can get any more, and then after that, we just have to decide. But I don't want to rush into making changes when we need to do our due diligence to say that we done crossed every T and dotted every I as it relates to this position that we have available. So, thank you, Superintendent Barber, for, just staying the course with us, but we really want the best for the agency. And not saying that you're not, but we just want to see what our options are and the qualifications. I think you're doing a tremendous good job for us as it relates to your knowledge base. I mean, you're very knowledgeable and very professional, at least from my perspective. But we need to extend the date and put the date back out, to put it back out to see if we can get some more leads. If not, well, we just keep putting our noodles together and work it out. So you have anything before we adjourn the meeting, Mayor?
I do not, thank you.
I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you.